560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Good piece of reporting commentary by Roger Lowenstein in the Wall Street Journal. What makes U.S. capitalism unlike any other? It's not particularly new, but there's some jarring data points that suggest we should be very jealous in guarding the golden goose that is a free minds and free market orientation, even as Europe walks away from both. He writes, the Jeffersonian origins of our economic system make it uniquely geared toward the individual. Unit of analysis is the individual, yes. Europe has a broad safety net and high-speed rail. America has highways and startups. Good dichotomy. Nowhere else is risk-taking so encouraged, and not coincidentally, nowhere else has innovation thrived as it has here. Both law and culture help to shape our capitalism in ways that reflect the spirit of the American Revolution. Going back to the founding, the early American economy was close to the Jeffersonian egalitarian ideal. The overwhelming economic fact was abundance of land. Immigrants improved their station merely by migrating, not that the trip was easy. Unlike in Europe, they could put down a stake or enter a trade without interference by a dominant caste or entitled elite, that is. Yes, now it's just difficult because the dominant caste is the government. The result was profoundly democratic. Americans were yeoman farmers, small manufacturers, fur traders, canal builders, tavern keepers, craftsmen, and merchants. Jefferson himself said, with respect to the small gap between rich and poor, can any condition of society be more desirable than this? The singularly American fact that people could rise above their birth inspired a new literature, tales of self-improvement. Equality wasn't guaranteed, but opportunity was. So while inequality, I should say, is alive and well, Lowenstein writes, American capitalism remains fiercely competitive, remarkably productive, resilient in the face of 1,000 doomsayers, and the author of a persistent wealth gap. Inequality increased in the 80s and 90s. It remains well above previous levels. However, there's trade-offs in this world. Europe is more equal in terms of the disparity, but it's also poorer. You ready for this? Per capita income in Arkansas, one of the poorest states, is greater than in Germany. Overall, per capita income in the United States is an astonishing 84% higher than in Europe. The gap shrinks if one adjusts for purchasing power, but by any measure, more Americans are employed, they have bigger houses and more washing machines, air conditioners, and computers. They eat out more, and the differences are significant. You be careful when you look around and say, we should be more like Western Europe. No, we shouldn't. We should be more like the founders envisioned, if we should be more like anything. It's just always nice to do a little stop, look, and listen when you have so many, unfortunately, in big urban centers and in blue states like, say, Illinois, so many people that would lead us down the road to serfdom in positions of political power. For more on this and other more pedestrian matters, we're pleased to be joined by Stephen Moore, economist and author of The Trump Economic Miracle and the Plan to Unleash Prosperity Again, co-authored with Art Laffer. Steve, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, Dan, good to be with you. I did read that article in the Wall Street Journal over the weekend. I liked it a lot. And people, though. So just two events. Can you hear me, by the way?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Two things happened in the last week or so that are moving us in the wrong direction. One is that the United States government is now going to give $10 billion to Intel because they're failing and they need a leg up. So they're going to take taxpayer money from companies that succeed and give it to companies that don't succeed. That's industrial policy. It's stupid. And then at the same time, we had a court ruling yesterday by the judges that said that Google is too successful. They're too successful, and they have to, are you ready for this, Dan? They have to, quote, share, unquote, share their technology and their data with all the other little companies that aren't Google.
Yeah. Well,
how stupid is that?
Well,
what kind of
very.
They're making too much money. Oh my God, they're too successful. And by the way, Google Chrome, which they wanted, thank God they didn't take Google Chrome away from Google. It's free. It costs nothing. Oh, they're gouging consumers.
Right. Well, and herein lies the difference between us and them. I mean, I have no use for Larry Page and Sergey Brin politically because they're both men of the left.
Right.
But that doesn't mean I want to do doesn't mean I want to do violence to their business, which is their private property and something I respect.
Right.
That's another sort of lesson along this.
Are you saying they should? Are you saying they shouldn't have to share?
Yeah, right. Yeah, sharing is caring, particularly at the point of a gun. Yeah,
exactly. But no, look, the point here is really an important one, that the U.S. is, despite all of our flaws, we're still the kind of Wild West when it comes to the economy. Let people succeed and fail, and that's what you have to do. And we have incredible companies. We have 7 companies that now have more net worth than all of the companies in Europe combined. And so it's a real testament to our free enterprise system, the fact that we have so many smart immigrants coming into the country, that you put that in combination with great Yankee ingenuity and you create great companies. And we need to keep doing that.
Yeah, I mean, even didn't I see even Crown Royal is moving some of its production or bottling or some part of its operation, moving more of it. It already had a presence here, but moving more of it to the United States, just in terms of this whole sort of North American back and forth between Canada and the United States and 51st state and all this business. At the end of the day, despite all of our self-inflicted punishments when it comes to capital formation and business location, I mean, this is a place people want to be, and it papers over some of the damage we do to ourselves.
Yeah, everybody wants to be anywhere except in Chicago and New York and the places where you have the murder capitals. But no, look, we do see a lot of business moving into the United States, but they're not just moving to the United States. It's important to understand that people are moving to red states.
Yeah.
They're not moving to blue cities, and that's the real tragedy. Because we need to clean up the cities. We need to. And when Chicago voters elect someone like Brandon Johnson, you pay a high price for that. If New York elects this guy Mandani, there will be no Wall Street left. That's my prediction. Wall Street will no longer be in New York City. It will be in Dallas, or it will be in Miami, or somewhere else. So the people really are voting with their feet against these socialist policies, not just around the world, but within the country as well.
Something else that's happening in court that bears some commentary is Trump's tariffs are running into trouble in federal court. Now, they always assume this would get to the Supreme Court, which is where this is tracking. But the suggestion, I mean, Trump's suggestion is that basically if the tariffs that I imposed are overturned, it'll be the end of America, which I think is a bit over the top. But the CBO says Trump is bringing in enough revenue from tariffs to cut deficits by $4 trillion over the next decade. That assumes a lot of things, including spending restraint. But is that something that you applaud, that CBO data point?
So, look, I don't think Donald Trump listens to your show, so I can be very frank.
Yes.
because I like Donald Trump, and I think what he's done has been amazing on the economy. But I disagree with him on this, not just because I disagree with tariffs, but I think I'm a strict constructionist when it comes to the Constitution. The words mean what they say, in my opinion. And what does you're familiar with this, Dan? What does the Constitution say about taxes?
Congress shall levy.
Congress shall levy, and that the tax bill shall start where? In the House of Representatives, not in the Oval Office of the White House. Now, look, I like Trump. I know a lot of people who listen to the show like Trump, but I think he's wrong here. I think that these decisions about, and by the way, a tariff, Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, a tariff is a tax, is it not?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. So that means that these need to be passed by Congress, in my opinion, and I don't think the president has this quote emergency authority to levy these high taxes. So I think he's going to lose in the Supreme Court. We'll see how people like Clarence Thomas and Alito and others vote on this. But if they're true to the Constitution, I think they're going to say. Now, the kind of little asterisk here is that Congress, in all its infinite wisdom, has delegated taxing authority to the president. And I think that is illegal, too. I don't think they can just allow the president. We don't have a monarchy in this country.
Yeah, right. The profiles encourage that want somebody else to do their dirty work.
Exactly.
So yeah, you can understand where he's inclined to intervene and come up with perhaps creative interpretations of statutory law. But the flip side is, for all of the jawboning about tariffs, I mean, it's a position that a lot of Democrats actually support, and a lot of MAGA Republicans do. So they actually might be able to impose it themselves if they were compelled to.
No, it's very funny, actually, isn't it, that the Democrats are, saying, yeah, you don't have the authority to raise the taxes. And by the way, we like tariffs. No, we hate tariffs. We like them. We hate them. They are against whatever Trump is for, even though it was the Bernie Sanders. Although I have to give Bernie Sanders credit. He came out wholeheartedly in favor of Trump's takeover of Intel.
Yeah, the equity stake in Intel, I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the good news, bad news would be, if you believe that Trump is incorrect on this, and if that's ultimately where the Supreme Court came down, then he may think he lost, but the economic impact of rolling back these tariffs may be a win for the American economy.
Well, I think, but the flip side of that, and I agree with what you just said, but it is true. Like, people ask me, what do I think about Trump's tariffs? I don't like his tariffs, but I do like his trade deals. I think his trade deals with Canada, with the UK, with the Europeans have been pretty favorable to the United States. And I think what Trump would say is, look, I'm using these tariffs as a weapon, a sword against some of these other countries, and the courts may take that sword away from him. So I know people have very different opinions on this, and even some of my best friends are like, oh, Trump should be able to do whatever he wants. And I'm not, but can you imagine? Here's a scenario I want you to think about, Dan. Let us say, God forbid, that Kamala Harris had won the election. And one of the first things she said is, we have a climate change emergency.
Right.
The world is coming to an end. We have to quadruple our taxes on energy, or else, where the polar ice caps are going to melt. And then would we say, oh, yeah, she has that authority to do it? No, we wouldn't.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to get your handle on a couple of stories out this week that may be concerning if they turn out.
By the way, can I interrupt you 1 second?
Sure.
Did you see talking about big stories? Did you see the story that the polar ice caps aren't melting like they thought they were?
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah. Imagine that the models are not working out as. Have they ever?
That never happens.
Has a model predicting something that's going to happen 5 or 10 months, so it's 25 or 50 years from now, ever actually been accurate? But these
CBO.
these stories that could be concerning if they turn out to be canaries in the coal mine. Black Americans are losing jobs in a warning for the economy. Black unemployment rate has risen to 7.2%, the highest level since October of 2021. And U.S. stocks now pricier than they were in the dot-com era. In point of fact, they are the 10 largest companies accounting for 40% of the total value of the S&P 500. That is the highest concentration of in terms of market value among a small group of companies in the history. So are we heading for, I don't want to say a bubble bursting, because I'm not even sure what that bubble would be, but are we heading for a retrenchment, a correction here?
Boy, if I knew the answer to that question, I would be in Tahiti right now. I mean, who knows when the bubble is going to burst. But look, and I'm not too concerned about the PE ratios being high because, for one thing, we just passed a big tax cut, which really is very favorable to business. It's going to bring a lot of enterprise and dollars flowing in the United States. So I still am pretty bullish on the stock market. But look, I understand. I get a lot of letters from my friends and readers saying, "Oh my God, the PE ratios are way high," and they are high. That is true, but there are other factors at stake here. So, and by the way, if you're not going to invest in America, where are you going to invest? I mean, we have a very pro-business president right now, and that I think is going to be a positive thing. In terms of the black high unemployment, it's a tragedy what's happened, and it's a tragedy of our schools. It's a tragedy the fact that so many kids are coming out of high school without being able to read or do math, especially in Chicago. When are you folks going to do something about your miserable schools?
Well, yeah. Tell me about it. And it's not just the miserable schools in Chicago. There's a lot of suburban school districts around the country that are not what they used to be, including your very own New Trier, by the way. Hate to break it to you.
But the people who are most victimized by the bad government-run schools are the minorities.
Well, right, but I mean, in addition to that story, there's other stories this week too about it just doesn't, and this is anecdotal, and you try to balance these things, but people are reading it, and it gets them a little jittery. It gets me a little jittery. Where you have a lot of middle Americans not feeling great about where they are right now, not feeling like they are getting ahead. Prices for everyday goods still high relative to their wages and wage growth, and then a lot of people are struggling to make ends meet.
Look, I've seen those polls. I'm very familiar with them, and it is true. People are feeling a little bit glum about the economy. On the other hand, if you look at actually what's happening in the economy, almost all the statistics are pointing north. I mean, so you've got real high employment rates. You've got, wages are rising for the first time in 4 years. You've got a booming stock market. So I think the statistics and what's really happening in the economy are very different than, people's attitudes about it.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, there was that Americans lose faith that hard work leads to economic gains in today's journal. So
that's terrible. I mean, that's a really terrible, but again, this is partly her education system, which is turning kids. A lot of those negative attitudes are among young people, and they've been taught to hate capitalism and free. It goes right back to what we started this conversation about. We have the winning formula here, and everybody's trying to change it.
Yeah, and they've been taught sort of an entitlement attitude that that needs to be addressed. Steve Moore, economist, author of The Trump Economic Miracle. Steve, thanks as always.
Okay, and Dan, don't forget, the word of the day is share.
Share. They're at the point of a gun. That's the phrase of the day.
Take care.
Thanks as always, Steve. You joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
At AlmostFreeTeeth.com, they're dedicated to making smiles great again.